Hey everyone, welcome back to the Triathlon Weekly News Roundup presented by thefeed.com. The first episode of 2024. I had so much fun doing this last year, so I decided to do it again this year. I will try to keep it coming out on Mondays as often as I can, so you can anticipate it. And even though there's not that much triathlon news at this time of the year, there are always some headlines and talking points, and I could talk about them, as you know, forever. And my girlfriend really appreciates me talking to you guys instead of her about it. So here we are. Let's get stuck in because we had the first race of the year, 70.3 Pucon. By all accounts and everything I've heard, that is one of the most beautiful races, if not the most beautiful race of the entire calendar. Sam Long picked up his 15th win. It was apparently such a hard swim, so he came out of the water a few minutes back, but rode another sub 2 ride for him. Had the fastest run split again on a pretty hard course. So it looks like he's got some good fitness coming into the year. And then Marta Sanchez took the win on the women's side. She won 4 races last year, not too big of races, but yeah, it's pretty exciting to see her doing well, climbing the ranks, and I think we can expect to see her name a few more times in the upcoming year. So yeah, first race, we're back at it. Although there aren't too many up and coming too quickly. There's 70.3 Tasmania in another month or so, and then Ironman New Zealand's the first full distance race about a month after that as well. However, there is Tauranga Half coming up pretty soon, and from what I've heard, there might be Kyle Smith, Javier Gomez, and Chelsea Sodaro on the start line, so that should be a good one to tune into on January 20th, I believe. But then onto the main piece of the news, and that is coming out of that Centera Tech video where Kristian Blumenfeld apparently put down some ridiculous numbers that had Olaf Alexander Boo just shocked. Let's go! So much so that he had to recheck his instruments and measurements on his devices, and yeah, he said they were correct. So it looks like Kristian Blumenfeld has really absorbed the training that they did in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, something that they did last year, but Kristian got sick as well as a few other factors didn't mean that it turned out so well, but this year it looks like it has really turned out well. And then Gustav in the same video felt just completely the opposite, where he wasn't able to do the bike and the run tests because of his ongoing Achilles injury, which was bad enough that he went to Germany for a PRP treatment. So it looks like my prediction about him this year might not come true because he is still suffering with that injury. Hopefully it is getting better and we can see him racing to full form, because it looks like his swim finally doing the best it's ever been. So that would be so good if he could get back his bike and his run fitness pretty quickly, but it doesn't look too good. But the biggest challenge, it seemed like, for Olaf after that video wasn't with Gustav, but rather with Kristian Blumenfeld and what to do with the fitness he currently has and how to implement that into his training and their program for the upcoming Olympics, because he's never seen numbers like that. What do you guys think about it? Even Kristian seems surprised about the results. Is this something that's a bit of a mind game for his competitors? Whatever the case, if I was Kristian's competitor and I was watching that, I'd be a little bit nervous. Some people did the math on the numbers they saw on the screen, which mean nothing to me, and they say it's absolutely ridiculous, so I'll take their word for it. And yeah, here we go. Let's see how he turns that into racing. But then another video that makes the headlines and felt completely opposite of this one was Lionel Sanders' video where he summed up his 2023 year. It was not the best year for Lionel, to say the least. He says he's more motivated than ever, which is a bit of a scary thought considering how motivated he said he was in 2022's recap video.
Firing on all cylinders.
I think partly that's because he's putting his coaching career of the future on the line a little bit with these kind of videos, showcasing how much he wants to coach himself to success, how much he knows what he needs to do.
You're gonna see this season my coaching on display, and what do I want to do when this is all said and done? I want to be a professional coach of professional athletes trying to win the world title.
And it'll be exciting to see. In my predictions video, I did predict him to have his best year yet, so we'll have to wait and see on that. And then another video which made a bit of a headline for me was the Ironman World Championship documentary, which I thought was incredible. I've been watching these videos for a long time, and I'm not just saying this. I thought this one, they really blew it out of the park. The cinematography, the pacing of it, the drama. I just loved how they focused a lot on the pros. As always, I love the stories that they told. I was just really intrigued that they weren't showcasing it on NBC, as I know so many people who have watched the documentary every year on NBC and that they love that, and how many people have gotten into the sport because of that documentary, and how they chose to go on Outside Watch and YouTube this year. Hopefully that wasn't NBC saying no to them and that was a tactical decision by Ironman, because I think NBC would have really missed out on a good documentary this year. And let me know what you thought of it down below. But then moving on to other news, this time of the year we always get a lot of bike changes, sponsor changes with a lot of the pros, and we definitely had a few recently. We had Gwen Jorgensen change up her bike sponsor to Canyon. She will be trying to get to the Olympics on that bike. Peter Hemmerich is also changing bikes this year from Scott to BMC. He will now be on the new BMC Time Machine. PTO ranked number 5. I think he's one of the least talked about athletes who should be talked about. I can't wait to see him race next year. And then I also saw Jeannie Metzler and Justin Metzler change bikes for 2024. They actually went out of their savings to purchase these new bikes. It's the first time Justin hasn't had a bike sponsor in a long time.
First year as a pro, I haven't been sponsored on a bike, and there's a couple of reasons that went into that decision, but I think the majority reason was I want to make sure I'm going really fast.
But yeah, I just thought that was interesting, and yeah, oftentimes I don't think about how much the pros have to deal with in regards to sponsors and choosing the right equipment, and how sometimes even though the product is top notch, it might not just work for certain pros. But then some pretty big news came out of Hayden Wild on the Triathlon Hour podcast this week, really hinting towards a non-drafting career after the Olympics, saying it really suits him. The non-drafting he loves being at the front of the bike ride anyways on short course, and doesn't quite have that speed in the swim for the ITU races. What I found fascinating from that podcast as well is during that Melbourne 70.3 race that he dominated, he said he wasn't used to running that slow, and he was talking about running 3:03 or 3:05 per kilometer, and was actually aiming for 65 minutes, so an hour and 5 minutes on the run during that race. So I think that's a scary proposition for him now to be looking at joining the middle distance permanently. He also jokingly kind of suggested perhaps even Kona in 2026. And then also I saw on Tri247, they did a little interview of Alex Yee, and he said he is intrigued by the PTO as well, but it looks like it'll take a few more years for him to come over to this distance. But then somebody who knows a thing about going from short to long course, that's Alistair Brownlee. He announced that his Brownlee Foundation purchased Try Hard Events, a series of races, which includes Helvellyn Triathlon. And he said that all of the proceeds that come from these races will be going back into the sport at the grassroots level, which I just love. And yeah, I just love what they do with the Brownlee Foundation, helping young kids get active and get into the sport, which is definitely what we need for the future. It's pretty tough getting into triathlon as it is, and then also at a younger age, even more so. So yeah, just great to hear that they're growing and yeah, expanding what they do. And then the last piece of news this week comes out of a couple articles I saw from a couple weeks ago from Tri247, who interviewed PTO Sam Renouf, and they asked him about the upcoming tour. He couldn't share too many details, obviously they haven't released their races yet, but he did share something which was pretty interesting to me and caught my eye. Because in 2023, I thought their broadcast coverage was pretty good. It was decent, I just didn't think it was as good as I'd hoped for or what they'd said before, but it looks like it also wasn't for them, and they believe they still have a long way to go with it. They're competing, he said, with the likes of tennis and golf with their Warner Brothers partnership and trying to get time slots that they want to show the races. And they said that they won't truly be ready until they've got robust biometrics, data, and graphics which are live alongside the pictures. And they think the second screen environment is a really important part, which they're making progress on. So that's great to hear. I'm really excited to see if they make these changes this year. And yeah, hoping so, because I believe they've got a great product and a great race. And they also, again, reiterated how important it is to have household names and the same best athletes racing each other. But then finally, we're on to the article of the week, the video of the week, the hot question, and the humor of the week. This week's article of the week goes to 220 Triathlon and their article about what they learned from the Paris test event. And I know that was a while ago, but as I was reading this article, it made me really excited for this upcoming Olympics. It just gave so many insights that had my mind going about what I think is going to take place in the race in 2024. So I highly recommend checking that one out. And speaking of that, the video of the week this week, I went back while I was riding on the trainer, spending a lot of time on there these days, and I rewatched the Tokyo Olympic Games, the men's and the women's triathlon, and I couldn't recommend doing it enough. Those races were so good. I almost forgot what happened from the swim to the bike to the run. But then moving on to this week's hot question, and it is on unfair advantages in triathlon. I kind of mentioned this a little bit in my predictions video where I suggested that I think some rules are going to change in 2024. I have no basis for that, it was just a random prediction, but it's just been on my mind thinking about this, and then I heard it in the Triathlon Hour podcast with Frederick Funk, where he was talking to Fred about how some pros have quite a bit more of an advantage based on their sponsors and what they're given over some lower ranked athletes, even those in the 20s, 30s, 40s of the PTO rankings, and how much of an advantage it gives those athletes. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Now, it wasn't something I was thinking yes or no on. I really do think there's positives and negatives with this. I think it's great for the sport, it drives innovation, it makes it exciting, but then I do also think that, yeah, some athletes might really suffer because of it, and might be quite a bit far behind, especially on the bike. And we know they made those big changes to the shoes and the stack height, and that giving certain advantages to other athletes. So I wonder if they're gonna change this in the future, if they're gonna standardize it like Formula One or UCI cycling in general, just to again level out the playing field a little bit more. So what do you think of that? Do you prefer it the way it is? Do you want to see less regulation? Or do you think that would make a little bit more of a fair sport? And finally, ending it on a positive note with the humor of the week. And this one I don't think I've ever given to Triathlon Mockery, which is crazy because I think they're the funniest guys and talk about the funniest things. But yeah, their awards show that they did for the end of the year was the best awards I think that were given out in triathlon and media, and their categories were fantastic. Lachlan Earnshaw, whose videos I love, he got Creator of the Year for them, and yeah, just think that was brilliant, so do check it out. But that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for the first episode of 2024. Can't wait for the rest of the year. Have a good one, happy training, we'll see you soon, bye.